There's two things I want to mention before I get started with the review. One is about Dr. Cheyenne and one is about Cam. Dr. Cheyenne, in terms of credibility, I really think it's important for us to know who we're getting our information from. In her case, her information is readily accessible to confirm that she really is who she says she is. She has a master's in marriage and family therapy, and she has a doctorate in counseling psychology. She does not call herself a psychologist because you have to be licensed in order to call yourself that. She calls herself a psychology expert. I think it's fine that lay people who don't know much about the psychology field call her a psychologist. I don't think it speaks to her competency, whether she's licensed or not. This could be a personal preference for her because there's a lot of hoopla to go through to get licensed. Listen, I'm a licensed psychologist, I can tell you. But that doesn't mean that she is not credible. In fact, I think her history completely shows that this woman is a woman that knows what she's talking about. Okay, Cam. I'm showing this picture of Cam's parents, Cam's mother specifically, because I think a lot of us are wondering, why is Cam like this? And if you don't have the language that we're going to talk about here, some of the same language that Dr. Cheyenne used, I think you might be wondering, how did this man get like this? In the work that I do, I've been in the States now 10-ish years. I'm from the Caribbean. One of the things that I've learned being here is what the dynamic of families are. Being Black in America is a specific thing. And so the history here impacts families in a certain way. Look at Cam's mother. I want you to look at her eyes. I want you to look at her skin tone. I want you to look at her body type. I want you to look at the energy she's giving in these pictures. I don't know this woman. I've never heard her do an interview. I'm just saying, I don't know. I think a lot of the stereotypes about Black women would probably apply. She's been married for 35 years. We'll talk about that later. To Cam's father. That doesn't mean anything, honestly. But to women who value marriage above their own personal, well-being and value, the length of the marriage is enough for them to stay in it, no matter what the quality of it is like. And I do think there are questions to be raised about what the quality of it is like, considering that Cam came out of this union. I think it's interesting that instead of looking at his father as an example, he said, I'm going to look over here. And he went on his own path and lived, I think on the outside, something different than what his father is living. But I would argue that the energy of what Cam is living and what his father is living are probably the same thing. We just don't know the details of his relationship with his wife. Neither here nor there, just a part of the background as we go into what this man, how Dr. Cheyenne got him together. So I love the way Dr. Cheyenne answered Cam's initial question about where she's from. I think in a regular interview, her answer was great, gave you a whole bunch of information. Cam is not a journalist, right? He is a former football player. So him being particular about the fact that she gave him more than he was asking for in that moment says something more about him than about her. She would be like a journalist's favorite person to interview because, hey, I can piggyback off of what you said. He might have to go 10 questions down to get to the next point he wanted to make, but you don't have to get her to only answer, I'm from LA. That dynamic set us up for the whole interview. I did watch the whole thing. I didn't want to just respond to the clip. But that dynamic in the beginning, it's almost like a nitpicking on his part, but it's an attempt to gain control of perceived control, because this is his platform. But he has felt like he lost control of what was going on because of how she answered the question. It's not true, but that was his perception of it. So to put her in her place and to remind him that he's the one in control, he had to let her know, you didn't have to give me all of that. You need to just answer the question. He does that throughout the whole interview. And I saw a comment somewhere about, how patient Dr. Cheyenne was. I mean, when you work with people, when you are doing healing work as a person who helps people heal and go through the process and the journey, when they get in front of you, I might have, conversations with my partner or my friends or, my mother about, people in the media or whatever. But when hurt people are in front of you and you're a healer, I don't want to say it comes natural. I think I naturally am a helping person, but having had so much experience, when a person who is clearly so damaged, so hurt, is in front of you, it's hard not to be empathetic when you yourself has done the work. So I thought it was a beautiful display from her throughout the whole interview. in honoring Cam, in validating him, in highlighting his strengths, while she also like called him to task. Like, bro, you are low functioning at the end of the day. Anyway, I think his question to her about her being 41 and single and in all these years you haven't found anyone, yada, yada, yada. I think that's also an attempt to try to discredit her. I do think that married people should take advice from married people, like in the long term, right? I think there's only so far a single person who has no idea what the ins and outs of marriage are like trying to help you. I can help an individual. I have married clients. I can help an individual. I can help two people connect. I'm not doing couples therapy. That's a whole different, but I think she specializes in that, which I've said in my other videos. If a person, even if they're single, has a lot of this experience and training to help couples, I think they can do a great job. But I don't think they're working from any experience. I think they're just working on theory. But the experience then comes from looking at so many different families and the difficulties that they go through. But at the end of the day, that information can be skewed too, because she goes on to say like what percentage of men and women are low functioning, and she said 70% of women, 40% of men. I don't have any research article to support anything like that. I think in her practice, that's what she's seen. I think it's probably closer to equal for men and women. They just displayed in different ways. Anyway, I think it's really clear why Dr. Cheyenne is single. She does give like a lengthy explanation about, previous engagements and, wanting somebody who's also high functioning like her, or a hybrid as she calls it, because she's still in process. Like the work is never really done. But I do think you get to a place where you can be in a healthy relationship and, get all the things you want and still be working on it. I do believe that. I'm 35, and throughout my channel, I've documented some of the difficulties it's been for me in being in a healthy, loving, romantic partnership. I think she explained, without directly answering, but explained why she's single. She is afraid of abandonment, right? I'm a person who also, stopped giving men a chance. I would date, but I would cut them off really quickly at any hint of a red flag or anything like that. And it had to go to a point where, listen, the vulnerability is important. It's good to pick a person who, is compatible with you, somebody who's loving, somebody who meets your, interests, your goals, all those things. But you still have to put yourself out there, right? And there's a chance they might not want you. There's a chance that you are going to have conflict in there's a guarantee that there's going to be at some point conflict in the relationship. It's really about like, how are you going to weather through the difficult times? And I think that's what Cam was trying to get at. Like, well, who are you willing to go to hell with? I think his framing just makes it sound more negative than it needs to. You can be in a loving partnership. There are going to be hard times, but to frame it as like, well, who are you going to go to hell with? I would say pick someone whose flaws you can live with. Jordan Peterson says pick someone you can negotiate with. Then you really won't have like hell. Like if you all are together 10 years, maybe you go through hell once, but hell should not like be a regular part of your relationship. And I feel like that's the difference in how Cam was explaining it versus how she was explaining it. I don't want to frame this as it's going to be hell, right? I want to frame this as a loving partnership, and we are going to go together having this shared vision to overcome any challenges that we might have. So when she was explaining about not wanting to be a detective in the relationship, like I understand it. So like Cam, I feel like his explanation of detective in a relationship is like a norm for Black women, versus it really doesn't have to be. Like you do not have to be with somebody who influences or triggers your insecurity. You can be with somebody who reassures you and is patient with you and loving with you and does things to make sure you understand that they are there for you, that they're not going to abandon you. And so whether you feel a trigger or not, objectively, what are their behaviors? Are they behaving in a loving, as they would call high vibrational, high functioning way to you, and you are being triggered by your past, like things that don't have anything to do with them? Or are they really somebody that is not good for you, somebody that is not trustworthy? I think those are things for the individual to figure out. By the end of the day, picking someone that you like, picking someone that you want to be with, not framing all these conversations around money, although we do need money to live, is I think a great start, because we'll get into transactional relationships. Cam definitely is in a transactional relationship. That is the way he set up his relationships, especially when he started talking about, I can mold a woman. Bro, you can't mold nothing. Really, it's low functioning women coming to you and you and them agree, y'all see eye to eye, you're aligned. Because if you met a woman like me, there's no way. Do y'all hear the way his girlfriend talks about their relationship? She sounds brainwashed, but I think she's really aligned with what she's saying. She has bought into the idea that women are competition. I won because I'm the one that's living in the house with him, and whatever he wants me to do, I'm gonna do because I'm a good girl, I'm a good girlfriend, I'm a perfect partner, however she views it. All of that is just so she can feel good about herself, because she really doesn't. But it also highlights that Cam doesn't feel good about himself. He's also saying he doesn't even know what it's like to be loved, like genuinely by a woman. He reminds me of those men in the red pill talk groups. The social media, their filter is full of women who cheat, women who lie, women who use, women who trick men. Those are not most women. I don't think that's even half of women. But the fact that you only seem to partner with women that want stuff from you, what about your personality? If you're leading with money, you are going to attract women that just want your money. Women that are looking for security and not you, like the goodness of who you are. He could very much find that, but you have to embody that first. And I just don't think he is that. I think he's like how Dr. Cheyenne was saying, he puts on the Cam Newton like personality. He's out there as I'm good, all that stuff. I only cry for my kids. When there's a whole human underneath that, and men have feelings too, they have had not good training on how to express their feelings. And so it just becomes difficult when they get into a relationship with a woman. But he can very much, I promise, like this man, anybody, you can very much have somebody that is there for you, that will ride through the thick and the thin with you because they like you, like they love you. Not what you can do for them, not how you make them look, not what benefits that they can get. They just like you. That is a difficult thing to find. But at the end of the day, you have to like you. You have to be working on you. You have to be the best version of you. And when you lead with you are a good person, I deserve good things, all the love in the world is here for me, I'm not holding back on anything, I don't have to fear anything, there's not a scarcity mindset, I promise you, you will find exactly what you're looking for. And not that they have to be a unicorn, because as I was listening to this, I was like, is my boyfriend a unicorn? I don't know if he's a unicorn. Is he a unicorn, or are we just divinely aligned? And so this match is perfect for us. I don't think I'm an anomaly. I know there are not a lot of women who are very smart and very pretty and have done the work to heal. I know that. But there are lots of women like that who exist and who are doing the work. So I don't think I'm a unicorn in that way. I know I'm rare, but my personality is actually rare. But I don't think I am so far from the norm. There are a lot of good women who are with good men. There are a lot of good women who are looking for good men. Yeah, and Cam's framing, his lens on what women are, and it sounds more like the dark persona of the feminine versus the loving, nurturing feminine. Bro, did you get that from your mother? Because why you can't recognize it? It's really confusing, why you can't recognize that. They went on and on about not idolizing marriage. Dr. Cheyenne explained to him, no, there are no marriages that I want. I can be inspired by people, but I'm looking to create my own relationship that's loving. And yeah, they have something great going on, but I can't say I want that. And I would agree, if you say anybody, right, the relationship goals or anything like that, and you have no idea the difficulties that they've gone through, you wouldn't want it if you really knew what they had going on. Everybody has their stuff to live with, but I'm just saying, whatever somebody has in life, you probably wouldn't want it if you knew what it took to get it. How Cam was not understanding, I think he was being obtuse. I think it was more of that power dynamic, no, you didn't answer my question, you need to answer my question, and how can it be, right? He has his own worldview. This is why these people who not journalists should not be. Anyway, have a conversation if you're having a conversation. But the whole challenging of the person that you bring on, who's sharing their opinion, their experience, you wanting it to fit into your experience, this is why he's with the type of woman that he's with. Okay, moving on. Dr. Cheyenne did mention that a lot of the women that she sees have amazing husbands, and her goal is to help them get out of the fantasy world so that they can realize the reality of what their husband is. No, he's not the image you had in your mind, but he's still a really good man. I really like Rebecca Lynn Pope. She says a similar thing in a different way. I think the divorce statistics also reflect this. When I was doing some research a few years ago, it is a lot of women divorcing their husbands, not because they're bad husbands, but because there's something they feel they're missing. Think like the 80-20 rule. Something they feel like they're missing, and so they just end the relationship versus working on it. Both people end up being unhappy. So like either person could have initiated the divorce, but men are unlikely to initiate the divorce for a lot of reasons. Marriage benefits them. They kind of like the woman, or they like the way things are. They could do it. There's a lot of reasons why a man might stay in the relationship. I thought that was a helpful thing, because in the single world, I was just watching a video about a woman who said, if I get married and have a kid, my husband has to be rich and he has to be available. Like he has to raise this kid 50% of the time. To my ears, when I know the statistics, when I know how men are, when I know about who is responsible for child rearing, when I know that nobody does 50-50 on everything, that sounds very delulu. That sounds like unrealistic. That sounds like it doesn't exist. If you know of a rich man that is raising his kids 50% of the time, so if we're talking cleaning, cooking, taking the kids to school, after school practices, that it's equally balanced 50% of the time. If you know a rich man that's doing that, let me know who it is. Because I love expanding my worldview. I love learning more about how different people live. I haven't seen it. I would love to see it. I'm just saying, I don't think that exists. Should it exist? I'm not even sure it should exist. But if you want it, I'm sure you could get it. But there's a lot of unrealistic things, the fantasy that Dr. Cheyenne is talking about, that do exist from women who don't seem to understand men. Like, understand men. Right. Separate thing. I loved her explanation of high functioning versus low functioning and high value versus low value. I think Kevin Samuels was the one who popularized the term high value man and had everybody thinking they were a high value man, but also had people saying they want a high value man. I often say money is important, but you cannot lead with money. Whether you are the man or you're the woman looking for a man, you cannot make money number one, because what you will often end up with is a low functioning man who has high value, right? A lot of people from society's, point of view would say, oh, he's very successful, oh, he has all this money, oh, he has all this status. But when you are in a room with this man alone, like there's no conversation, there's no positive energy, there's this person that has all this trauma or triggered or whatever it is, that is not conducive to a healthy relationship. And we see this time and time again. I don't follow the Shade Room, but if you go and look at any of the recent posts on the Shade Room, you will see tons and tons of relationships like this, where the man has a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of fame, but he ain't shit, okay? So when Dr. Cheyenne said a high functioning woman wants you, she doesn't need you. She's interdependent, she's not dependent. That's like music. That's beautiful. A wonderful explanation for someone that's done the work. Because I promise you, no, I would never be in a room with Cam Newton. No, I don't have access to how much wealth, whatever wealth that he has. But even in my neck of the woods, right? Y'all know, you could Google how much on average a psychologist makes, what I'm looking for from my partner and more. The money, even what I have access to, the money is not enough. The money is not enough. And I'm dating men with money. We're low function. I don't have time. High functioning is super important. As he was trying to speak, as Cam was trying to speak on Dr. Cheyenne's experience, I also thought it was helpful for her to frame it as like, you're a man, you cannot speak to the woman's experience. Like, we can talk theory, you can tell me what you heard about, I can say research, but I also don't speak from the man's experience. I don't know. There are things I know, there's things I know in theory, there are things I know from the men I've spoken to, but it's a man's experience to share certain things. So him saying a woman is not gonna date a low value man, a woman is not gonna date a low value man, and then him discrediting everything she said about the statistics. Most black women are with men that make less than them, that have less than them. So many black women are with men who live at home or who live with a roommate. I don't know what he was talking about. So many black women are taking care of their men. They're the breadwinner. The men are the stay-at-home husbands or fathers, or work a part-time job that doesn't bring out enough, or aren't working at all. So many of those relationships are going on and on and on. People are together for decades. So even for him to say that they run their course, bro, what do you mean run their course? In marriages where both people are rich, those marriages run their course. Like, relationships are not guaranteed to last forever. And whether you have money or not, relationships can end for all sorts of reasons. I don't know. I've also dated a man that I liked very much. This is the man I was dating who wasn't dating me, who lived at home, was stacking his money, was being smart. Does any woman want to be with a man who is going to live at home forever? I mean, if he's inheriting a house and he has his own space, maybe. But if she's not gonna move into that house and he's sort of dependent on his parents and not pulling his own weight, would that relationship probably end? Yeah. But I think there are lots and lots and lots of women who are interested in men with ambition, who are working hard, and who maybe at this point in their life not exactly where they want to be, but we still partner with them. What? I don't understand what where is this man getting this information from? Because in real life, are you just like looking on the internet for skewed information? There's no men in your life that are loved well, not even your dad. Like, your mom was with your dad just for money. Like, make it make sense. He's not making any sense. Because broke men are married with a whole bunch of kids all over the place. Those are the deadbeat dads. It's a different level for like men like Cam and Nick Cannon. Cam's kids do live with him, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're kids from all different women. Their moms are not living with them. It's a whole different thing. I wrote that Dr. Cheyenne, one of her points, I don't think she said it like this, but talking about being in love is about vulnerability. Like, you really have to put yourself out there to be seen and then to feel the love that the other person is giving. That's really what love, like genuine love, that's really what love is. Like, I accept you for who you are, flaws and all. I think you're great. Love you, want to be around you, up under you. That's love. Like, just for you. At the end of the day, when we're alone in bed, we don't have to, be on or nobody's watching. I just like you. I love you. I like also what she said about a healed woman is thinking about 55, 60, 70, literally. Then I just had a video about being 60, 70 and feeling like you don't have to, as a woman, you don't have to conform to anybody. You don't have to please anybody, and feeling like that at 35. I promise you, I'm thinking about if I have more kids, probably won't. If I have more kids and they're gone and it's just me and this man, do I like him? Can I see, us on the rocker outside, as we're walking around the house that we share and it's just us? Do I enjoy the company? Do I enjoy the conversation? Is the energy going to be good? Like, do I just enjoy this person? And after all the goings around and doing all the things in life, will I want to be around this person? I promise you that's what I'm thinking about. As a healed woman, as a woman who's done the work, I promise you that's what I'm thinking about for sure. This is not about, like she's saying, it's never been for me, like ever, about the Birkin or the trips or anything like that. I really want to make sure I have a positive, loving experience with the person I'm with. I fully agree that men are men regardless of race. I think because we are often siloed into, our little bubble, our little community, our culture, that we think something might be better out there and the white men are the men with the money, or, I want to try something new and they'll probably be better. That's just not the case. But you wouldn't know unless you did it, or like me, you've done research on different cultures, different races, and listened to those women complain about their men. White women are literally complaining about the same things that black women are complaining about. It's just framed slightly different. But white women are also women who have been subjugated and controlled by white men. Like men are men. You go across the world, men are men. And if you understand men, you will understand that it's not greener over on the other side, that you can't run away from one race and think you're going to find love in the other one. What you really need to do is work on yourself so you can attract love in general. And if that happens to come as a person from a different race, I think that's a beautiful thing. Interracial relationships, like whatever relationship, if it's loving, I think that's a beautiful thing. But to think that, you're going to swirl and just because they're white, they're going to treat you better, it's a fallacy. It really is. And you think these white men aren't traumatized? You think they haven't been through stuff either? Girl, what? What? So she's dated men outside her race. I've also dated men outside my race. Not seriously. Never been intimate with. But I promise you, men are men. And I love men, okay? Black men are my favorite. I love men. in all the masculine divine energy of it all. Men are amazing, when they're locked in and in their element of, love, versus, all these low functioning men out here who think they have to control a woman in order to feel like a man, or railroad and stampede other people, or express only anger in order to display their manhood. Yeah, I wrote Dr. Cheyenne already explained why she's single. It's not unrealistic expectations. She doesn't sound like she has unrealistic expectations. It sounds like she's scared of hurt, of getting pregnant and it not working out. I don't know why she would date a man who's 27. I know that there are men who are 27 right now who are marriage-minded, hardworking, have good jobs, have a vision for their future. The divide between the time, right? The generational difference between 41 and 27, I think is way too great for, I'm not even 41, but I just think it's too great. But I forget where I read this, but divine partnerships often look odd on the surface. And so there might be a big gap. I think more unlikely to succeed and actually be a divine partnership, but that doesn't mean because there's a big age gap that these people don't genuinely love each other, right? It doesn't have to be a predatory relationship. I think that's often what it is, right? Like a guy who has mommy issues dating someone a lot older, a girl who has daddy issues dating a man who's much older. I need him to take care of me, whatever. But there is a chance that this is a loving, genuine partnership. I just think it's unlikely, that big age difference. She said, when will black men stop having all these kids outside of wedlocks, stop being the one to have like multiple baby mamas and all of that? When will it stop? This is why I titled the video what it is, because I feel like we are transitioning from blaming women to also holding men accountable for their actions. And I think maybe Nick Cannon, I'm thinking of doing a whole separate video on him, but how we can clearly see his pain. And to create homes like this, you are in like deep pain to do something like this. And if he would just stop, I don't know if he's done now, but if he would just stop, how fewer homes where there's only the one low functioning woman in it would be created. Because this is why when you do your work, you elevate the whole consciousness of the planet. When you do your work, right, you will then attract more like you, and that energy, that vibration will increase. When she did mention not wanting to date a man with kids, I've heard this before. There was a girl on TikTok, and if you're on TikTok, I'm not on TikTok now, but this was a while ago. If you're on TikTok, you may have seen her because she ended up describing an experience with a man she really, really liked. Like they had like a magical experience, first date, whatever. And then she found out he had a kid. And she was heartbroken, I've been there where it's like the potential of what you thought could happen or the possibilities were just snuffed out like very early. Maybe for other reasons they're not a good match, but I do halfway challenge women who are of a particular age who do not want to partner with a man with kids. I logically get it, but in reality, with the statistics, with how many good men there are out there who are divorced or, had one kid when they were really young, or had one kid and then found out their whole world was turned upside down by the woman. I just think there are really, really, really good men. But I think specifically Dr. Cheyenne is speaking on her fears, because then you say, I don't want, right? I don't, like, this is such a deal breaker. I think it highlights something in you. In my dating, I had very few, how you call it, like materialistic, not that kids are materialistic, but very few tangible deal breakers. Like I would never say, I'm never dating a man with kids, right? I would never, right? Because that the energy of that, even if you say, I'm never dating a man with kids. No, I'm never dating a man with kids. There's an energy there that I don't feel is aligned with love. I think there's a similar energy when a woman says something like, the man I'm with has to make $100,000. Similar to the man I am with has to have a bachelor's degree, right? I personally would never say those things because I'm an energy person, and the feeling of a thing is more important than the actual part of a thing. I think there's a man without a bachelor's degree, a man with 1 or 2 kids, a man who's making less than $100,000 who could be a really, really, really great man and a great person, right? Same thing with height. I have to date a man who's 6'5", right? All of these like requirements that are not like real or based in any substance. They're just arbitrary things that you picked. When I think you're trying to get to something, which I'm going to get to, which is how I frame like my dating. I'm not dating. I have my forever guy. It's important to me to be well loved. It's important to me to be cherished. It's important for me to have the freedom to experience and travel and eat good food, to have fun, to be able to relax. Like those things are important to me, right? You might be thinking Abraham Hicks if you're familiar with her content. The feeling of it is much more important to me than what it looks like, than the package it comes in. So I'm 5'5". I've dated men my height. Like I'm not sure height is that important. I've dated really tall men. Health is very important to me. So I'm not going to date somebody who's obese, but I'm going to say it's really important to me that I'm with someone who values their health, someone that values honesty, someone who is hardworking, right? Is a hardworking man going to be poor? Maybe for a season, but not for life. And so getting to like the values, informing my standards and my expectations leads to the man of my dreams, right? Who has then surpassed what number I could have put on how much money he has to make. I think it's much more important to think of the lifestyle and the feeling of it versus, I have to be able to go on 2 luxury vacations every year, or I only fly first class. Like, I don't think those small box things are helpful when it comes to dating. I think it's much more helpful if we look at a man as a person, if you view yourself as somebody who's also in progress, who doesn't have it all figured out, that you give people a chance, and that you don't have these rigid requirements. I understand her not wanting to date. I'm not saying it's wrong. A man with kids, I get it. With her history, I also get it, right? That this would be a thing that she's kind of hyper fixated on as something that she doesn't want. Rebecca Lynn Pope, I tell you, I love her, also said, I'm not dating a pastor. I don't want to be with a pastor, right? Because she had her own preconceived notions of what a pastor is. Who's she with? A pastor. Her divine love was a pastor. I wouldn't be surprised if God has, listen, she's a Christian. I don't know if she's Christian, but she quoted scripture throughout the interview, and also put kind of in his place about him thinking he could, mold and change a woman. Like, I understand what he was saying, but his wording was definitely icky and controlling. So I wouldn't be surprised if the man that God has for Dr. Cheyenne has a kid. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Does my man have a kid? No. But if he did, I would still want him. I promise you. I promise you. If he didn't have a degree, I promise you I would still want him. I'm sure whatever lifestyle he has now, he could have gotten without a degree. He would have found a way. But that speaks to like the heart, the energy of the person versus the I don't know, the things that goes on the resumes or the things that when you're describing it to another person is like, oh, well, he drives this car and he lives in this neighborhood. I don't care about those things because you can be with a high value person, exactly like you said, and they're low functioning. I don't think all men who create broken homes are low functioning. Maybe at that point in time they were, but just because they did it, I mean, I got pregnant when I was 17. I'm a very high value, high functioning woman. And it's fine with me. When men say they don't want to date a woman with kids, that's fine with me. You also miss out on all of this greatness, which is fine. It means I wasn't aligned for you, and that's perfectly fine. But I just don't think that's a helpful way to date, in my opinion. And then to wrap up, I love how she said the house can be broken, but the kids don't have to be. I mean, was I broken? I was a traumatized kid, okay? I've been through some things. Look at other videos on my channel. I did my own work. I'm very grateful that I did work early in my early 20s to be better, so that at 35 I can like sit fully in my womanhood and who I am and love and like who I am and just really enjoy life without trauma, triggers, stress, all those things. I also had a kid when I was 18, and because he got a mom who was working on herself to be better, who was learning all about child psychology, all those things, like my son, this is just a one parent household, single mom household, all the things they will say, Black woman, I had him at 18. Do you understand? My son is so amazing, set up for life, he's already high functioning, but will be a high functioning man. Will be a man who's not swayed by things, booty. I'm sure he's not gonna be, right? Will do the work necessary to create the life that he wants. Broken home, sure, but God-filled, loving home, active father, lots of really positive representations of men who love their family that he's been exposed to. So just because the home is not the ideal living conditions, because a two-parent household, even if it's same sex, a two-parent household in general yields much better outcomes than single-parent homes. That's true. But there are lots of two-parent households that lead to a lot of dysfunctioning kids, and there are a lot of single-parent households that lead to extremely successful, happy kids. So Dr. Cheyenne, in process like the rest of us, right? I'm not perfect. I just did a video about being emotionally reactive. I'm still improving and learning on myself. I think it's a beautiful thing what she's been able to provide to the community. I think this is her moment. Whew. I think what a teachable moment, this conversation that she had with Cam, how beautiful it was that, she, after having done all this work, can be so patient and kind and gracious to a person who's in such deep pain. I think that's such a beautiful thing. So something for us to learn. I did watch it at 2 times the speed because, girl, that man is annoying. There's no way I'm watching another one of them things, okay? But I hope this review was insightful, helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about anything I may have missed in the specifics that they talked about. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And for more videos like this, I love talking about the culture, pop culture things. Subscribe to my channel. And thank you for watching.